The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of him.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
Many words are left to say, so they get left behind.
Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks everybody for tuning in live. Welcome to the Colin Thompson Show, presented by Not For Long Media. I'm hanging out with Matt Atkinson today from Lost Boys. What's going on, bro?
Same old, same old. Down in the Keys, living life. You know better than anybody coming down to visit.
It's been a great run here. My parents have been coming for over 40 years. My uncle was stationed down here in the Navy in the early 80s. And they told him to, fly to Miami and drive south. And here we are. I've been coming since, I don't know, when was the first flight, Dad? 3?
I think you were 3.
I think the better story I just say, when I was 6 months old, you guys were crazy enough to put us on a flight, even though that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think at 6 months old, handed you off to grandma and said, we're out.
A different world then, too.
Great parenting, and also great parenting.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up at the Half Shore Raw Bar, sitting at the bar next to my dad, learned a lot of lessons of hanging out with the great people in Key West, and it's great to be here with you. I really appreciate it, man.
No doubt, man. I'm really happy to have you. It works out really well that we're able to put it all together while you're in town.
Before we get into the football stuff, we got to pay some bills here. Shout out to the Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. They ship fudge and sweet treats across the country. Chocolate, vanilla, peanut butter, you name it. They ship it across the country, fudgekitchens.com. Check them out. All right, Matt, so we're in Lost Boy Creations. It's really hard to put your finger and talk about this place because I feel like that's the same about Key West. Like, what's Key West all about? I don't know. You got to go like 3, 4, 5 times to figure it out. I think for your shop, it's probably the same thing. How do you explain Lost Boy Creations to someone who has no idea what it is?
We've talked about it before, even doing a show, and since then it's evolved so much. Somebody presented the same question to me the other day, and for the longest time, I really didn't know how to answer that because it really is a catch-all for all of our hobbies, between fishing, woodworking, surfing, music, as we saw last night. But really what it comes down to, it's become an artistic haven, more or less, for people like myself, like you, who have a passion in something, maybe not the norm or most people kind of conform to, something a little bit more out of the ordinary. So this has turned into that catch-all. The backbone of the business that I started in St. John in the Virgin Islands was really around woodworking and building boats, and we were building tree houses and surfboards and kind of whatever other wild things we can get our hands on. And out of happened circumstance, after dealing with a hurricane that upended most of the islands on there, I wound up in Key West, a place I'd never been either, and probably has changed a lot since you were coming as a kid. And of all places to land as a surfboard maker, a place with no waves is probably the last you'd be thinking about.
Yeah.
But I think the artistic integrity of this place and kind of what it's delved into is really what carried it. We've got musicians in-house. We've got some amazing woodworkers here. And it's become almost a strange identity for the Keys, I think, especially for our generation, our demographic. Kind of capturing the way of life that kind of seems elusive to the 9-to-5ers, to the old way of, the American dream, if not. But it's turning to the new one. Everybody has really embraced the adventure aspect of life, which I think is great.
No doubt. And I'll say this about Lost Boys. Just like Key West, like anyone and everyone is welcome, and they may be wearing anything at any moment of time or nothing. Quite often, in certain bars and restaurants, I don't know if Lost Boys you're allowed to do that, but I'm sure the right time and place, you can do anything you want in here. But
It's 1 week of the year that.
Okay, well, yeah, Fantasy Fest, I guess. So today, leaving the gym this morning, this is the second day in a row, I saw people on gaiters going to work, Lost Boy hats on backwards. I've seen people that I know that are extremely wealthy and well off that would never, ever, ever wear a flat brim hat wearing a Lost Boys hat. I've seen athletes wear it. I've seen bartenders wear it. I've seen musicians wear it, which I think is the greatest test to you and the brand, because that's really hard to do. Like, everyone's like, I have a target audience, I'm going to feed them. Great. but you're feeding like the whole island when it comes to hat wear and outerwear. And really, when a lot of people are in bars, they don't need hats anyways. People are wearing them. So it's a credit to you.
I appreciate that. It's been, I think, one of the strangest things, and almost in detriment when I was getting started. A lot of people saying, well, are you a woodworking company or are you a t-shirt shop? Or, and it's almost that not categorizing ourselves as one or the other. I think it's lent itself to people interpreting how they want to. The idea of living like a lost boy is to do what you want to do, what makes you tick, what makes you happy.
And now we get the podcast, you get the Rock the Shop stuff, which is so cool too. And for those that haven't seen that and are following live right now, Rock the Shop and awesome stuff, check out the YouTube page. Check out our YouTube page at Not For Long Media. Just a basic overview to what we're going to do today for the live audience, for people listening. First and foremost, a thank you to you guys. You donated to the Thompson Family Football Camp now 2 years in a row. Tons of hats, resources to our camp, which is amazing. So thank you. Thank you to the city of Key West. It's been unbelievable for my family here, obviously, for decades, but also that camp we were able to do last week. So I want to publicly say that again. We're going to go over some season storylines, and there's some great ones. We're going to hit on a lot of teams because I know people listening and watching live right now are fans of a lot of teams, i.e. your Ravens, Tommy, I promise. We'll talk about your Ravens, buddy. I know your heart's still broken. I'm not going to make it any better, I promise. We're going to go over like the end of year, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year stuff. A lot of the coaching, hiring, and firing situation, because that's a great story about this league. That is the gift that keeps on giving. Like, yes, the season's over. There'll be a weird period here where it's kind of quiet for a month, but not really. The NFL will dominate it with free agency, and then the NFL draft, and then we're rocking and rolling into OTAs, and then July's off, and then August is training camp. So the NFL has found a way to be an 11-month league when all the other leagues are just dying to figure that out, and it's so hard to do. We'll touch on some free agency pertaining to a lot of people's teams. I think we're not just going to touch on the Super Bowl today because I don't just think it's fair because the season's ending and there was a lot of great stuff to touch on. I'll be brief with all of it, I promise, or I'll try to be at least. And then I'll give my Super Bowl thoughts, some fun gambling stuff out there for you degenerates listening. What Gatorade color, all that fun stuff. Coin toss, heads or tails. What do you think that the coin toss is going to be, Tommy? Heads or tails? If you're out there, walking out there, you're a captain, I'm walking out there, hardball, I got you. What are you calling, heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads? Why?
Always.
Okay. I like it. Got to be steadfast. Actually, tails is a favorite. So what do we got? Start us off, brother. What are we going to start with?
Well, definitely a few things that you had mentioned before. Obviously, the season storylines for the 2023 season. Now, for somebody like myself, not a football aficionado, no Schwab by any stretch, but I was able to watch some this year, so I'm curious to hear what you got to say about some of these storylines.
Yeah, it's been awesome this year, and it's been humbling, to say the least, to have a Sirius XM show on Tuesday nights with Alec Ingold, who's a Pro Bowler for the Miami Dolphins. So I've been able to really watch the league at a different perspective this year. Like, not just for me to like tell stories at the bar to my friends, like after our game end in Carolina or Minnesota or wherever I've been, or in the off season, but now to like articulate it and speak it. So I just went back to some of my notes over this year, and I'm going to articulate some today to our viewers. I think the first thing to me was how good the league was this year. Like, the league was awesome. I think we did on our radio show week 16 or 15, there was only 2 teams eliminated from the playoffs. Like, that's unheard of. So viewership, which is supposedly supposed to go down for every reason that every hater that complains about clouds and people in their front yard, the viewership is skyrocketing, so that's really interesting. And the streaming services, I know, pissed some people off.
That was tough.
That was tough. But that's going to be so normal in 3-4 years. I don't know what they're going to do.
It's happening on every platform, too.
So I would say this, like Patriots, 4 losses, Chargers, 5 losses, Titans had 6 losses, Commanders had 4, my Panthers had 2, Giants had 6. Like, I don't know, it's at a handful plus of teams that were bad. And relatively, like, I'll argue this, I left the Cardinals out of there because the Cardinals should have started the year 4-0. And we're rocking and rolling, are supposed to be a bad football team.
They showed up, too. This year, I think more than ever, it was a matter of who's showing up that week.
Yeah.
Because there was no safe bets. There was no safe games that you felt confident in this winner or that winner. And a lot of it came down to really the fourth quarter. A lot of big games decided at the very end of the game.
No doubt. People say the NFL is rigged. I don't know if it's rigged per se, but I know this. Between the salary cap and draft capital and a lot of really smart people at the top of it, and I'll be honest, like, the one thing, too, about the league, and I swore, like, at this show I was going to be more honest than I ever have. There's a lot of people in higher positions in the NFL in all levels, front office, coaching, playing, that should not be there. And I think that's really weird. And I'm not like calling anybody out, but that's like anything in any profession, really. Yeah. Like if you look at it, and that's been a takeaway as I've grown through life, is like, man, you think X position would have their shit together, and they don't, and that's okay, and it makes the league strong. So I want to touch on that, how good the league was. I want to talk about the Ravens and the Lions finish of the season. Listen, I think they missed an absolutely golden opportunity to knock off the two teams that are supposed to be around here for the next decade, or the last 5 years and the next 5 years, a decade of success that the Niners and the Chiefs are going to have. Like, the Lions are a loaded football team. They are not a Cinderella story with this great head coach. They are a loaded football team. The GM did a great job. The head coach did a great job. Super impressive of what they've done. And the Ravens, to do what they did all year, to get to the biggest moment and only run the football a handful of times with your two running backs, it's crazy to me. And they were at home, and it was the perfect storm to take down a Chiefs team that's like limping throughout the entire season.
I think there's a lot to be said about the game plans that a lot of the coaches had going into some of these big games. Like you said, only running the football a handful of times in a key moment. We saw it a lot. I feel like I saw it with the Chiefs late in the season. Their pass game was struggling big time, and they were, granted, they came out on top a lot, but there was a lot of games that were really close. And you've got somebody like Pacheco running the ball, but he's just this machine. He's a total stud. Yep. And a testament to what you were saying about the level of play, I think that the caliber of player across the league has really seen a big spike this year. Like the highs are way higher than they have been. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, why has there's been lows and highs? Like, why is a scrub like me in this league? No, I'm kidding. But it's true, right? Like, the heart, can't beat it. I'm like Rudy. But the thing with the league, with the COVID year, what people don't understand is a lot of players slipped through the cracks, that were really good and went to become later round picks. So, for example, when you're a player and you're in college, the coaches come out and they meet with you. They meet with the strength coach. They meet with your academic advisor. They meet with everybody that has their hands on you, if you will, and that's helped shape you from being a freshman in college to a senior or junior, wherever you leave. And they get a lot of information. And those people, they all want to be in the NFL for the most part. So they're open and honest about it. And it really can hurt guys, or it can help guys that may not be on a projection of, wow, this guy's going to be a 4th round pick. Say he's a 4th, 5th round pick, but he's a really good student and he's a good person. And then all of a sudden he moves up to be a 3rd round pick, because it's based off who you are as a human. You avoid, you avoid issues down the line as a player. So I think there's a lot of that too. The COVID group that got in is kind of moved out a little bit too. So I want to touch on a few other things. Listen, I think the other team, the Eagles, are in shambles, and no one knows why. Anybody who could say, I know exactly what's going wrong with the Eagles, I think you're crazy. I think anybody knows exactly what's going to happen with this Super Bowl, I think you're crazy. The Eagles are an interesting situation. Offensively, super loaded group, didn't produce. I would say, who do you blame? A lot of different people. People blame the coordinator. I don't know if I fall into that category, but that's a part of this business, and he lost his job.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say they didn't produce that. What were they, 9-1, 1 to my Jets, but nonetheless, 9-1 to start the season, and then this meteoric fall from the stratosphere. I mean, they were untouchable for so long, and so you beg to question what was going on upstairs and some of the players, as far as the front office and what they were making the right decisions on what to be doing, who to be playing, coaching staff that we were talking about, and there's a lot to dig into for sure.
No doubt. And then Sean Desai defensively, wow. Struggling to talk today. Sean Desai defensively, I've been with Sean. He's a Temple grad. I played for him with the Bears, and he is super sharp. And I think some of the players got older on defense for the Eagles, and people couldn't realize that. And that's like, I always talk about what the Phillies a couple of years ago, when they paid like Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, and Chase Utley, even though they were like into their 30s, but they held on to the nostalgia of that really good Phillies team. And they were all way out of their primes, and they were all paid like their prime. So I think that kind of happened on the defensive side for the Eagles. Another note on a Carolina Panthers note for the Panthers fans out there, listen, you hit a home run with Dan Morgan as your GM. The guy was a stud for the Bills as in a front office situation. He was great with Seattle as well. He played for the Panthers, and he had some concussion issues and stepped away from the game. He's a Philly guy that played at the University of Miami and is an absolute legend. So he's a great pick to Carolina. I don't know much about the head coach there, Canales. I don't know him too well. I think Joe Brady, it was a home run situation for the Bills. I played for Joe in Carolina. He was a younger coordinator then. Didn't really call plays in high volume at LSU, but won a national title there. And I think Joe was an absolute home run hire because when he took over midseason, they went 6-1. They took the AFC East from Miami, and that was an absolute runaway team with the year. And you're down here in Key West, and you got to see that. So for me, Joe Brady, what he did with the Bills and the personal relationship he had with Josh Allen, where he was able to take Josh, who was a mess, and people are saying he's a bust and all these different things, and that all disappeared. They went 6-1. They went on a crazy run, and really they kind of did what the Chiefs did, like you alluded to. We're going to run the football. We're going to not force Patrick Mahomes to be Michael Jordan. We're going to, they always call Josh Allen Superman because Josh would have to be Superman for them to win. So I thought they did a nice job, and Joe did a great job this year.
Yeah, I mean, they compare him to Dan Marino, just being that big physical quarterback, being able to move people physically, just kind of move them. It's wild, the insight that you have as well, it speaks volumes about the show and everything and what you've got going on. To have that insight and to be interacting with a lot of these coaches that are making the leap from NCAA up to the bigs, it's really cool to kind of have some interaction with them on a different level. And obviously it's apples and oranges, but the fundamentals are still there. It's cool to see how that works out.
Yeah, Joe, he's an LSU guy, Lance's team, and go Tigers. Freddie D, go Tigers. I'm sure you're not watching on here, Freddie, because you don't know anything about technology, so you won't see this or witness it and ask how it was later and told me you watched it. He's listening to all my bullshit. He's listening to all my bullshit. That's my father-in-law who we're referring to, who's a Tiger as well. But the Joe Brady thing is something to keep an eye on. I think he's an NFL head coach next year at 34, somewhere around there. What a great move for him a couple years ago, being the quarterback coach in Buffalo. Really smart guy. I'm going to hang out with Josh Allen for a couple of years, see what he can do, see how he can develop and go from there. So happy for Joe. He's a friend. Jets fans, I had to put the Jets down here because I think they're a story of it, right? Aaron Rodgers. Jets fans alone, I think everyone kind of was a Jets fan unless you're like a Patriots fan.
This was our year.
It was just, everyone was excited to watch Aaron Rodgers, right? Like Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay was a drama story. And he's a great player. People I play with in the league love Aaron too. I know there's like some smoke around him and all this stuff as a teammate, but they loved him. So that's a weird thing too when you like see publicly. And then I'll add a side note too. And I'll look into the camera and see this because I've talked about this a million times. I played the game when I was inside the building. I would upload Twitter in the morning, see news being leaked out of facilities, and match it up with what actually was going on inside the facilities. And I would say 10% of what was being reported was true. And that's really hard. And it's a hard thing to say to fans when you watch ESPN and you're like, this is true. Or I read the paper and you're like, this is the Bible. And you're like, man, no, it's so far from the real story of what really happened. So that's why players' podcasts have taken off.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's an entertainment industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sports entertainment at the very core of it. And I think that people discount that statement, but it's the truth. I mean, it's a business like anything else.
Yep.
And we've seen it in news, not to go side subject, but
Yeah.
just sensationalism of news in general, those stories sell. And someone as big as Aaron Rodgers happening like that, ruptured Achilles, it's going to send shockwaves through a program and a system that, God, the whole Northeast was just so excited, whether you were excited for it, excited to play against him.
Yeah. It was a real bummer.
Oh, it's brutal.
It was a bummer.
Yeah.
When he came out and did the Achilles, that was brutal. He came out the tunnel with the flag and the whole nine. So I think the Jets have a good enough roster, and I think Coach Sal is a great defensive coordinator. Well, they'll be fine. They'll compete. They'll be a playoff team as long as he's standing upright. They still competed last year and were up for the playoffs. And Zach had a really tough year. I think another thing too is like Zach Wilson hanging out behind Aaron Rodgers for 2-3 years. Like people crucified that kid, but like it's really good for him.
I mean, with going through 4 different quarterbacks,
Yep.
a ton of injuries on the offensive line, with an already weak offensive line, and they're a good team. They just need to get those pieces together. I think we've got a strong core. It's just like everyone else who shows up on Sunday.
Yep, and then at the end of the year, how do you win December? Everybody gets excited about October or November, but really it's those last 5-6 games of the year, obviously, but it's like, how are you playing? How are you ending the playoffs? Again, the Eagles, arrow was pointing up all year. They were winning close games. Teams were giving some games up to them to win. Kansas City dropped a game-winning touchdown. And then they were trending down in the most important time. When you look at these teams right now, like the playoff teams, Kansas City, who had a rocky year, ascending as the season went on. Niners played great all year long, pretty much, other than that little stretch when they had all those injuries. So Texans, D'Amico Ryans, Sydney, my wife's from Houston. I had to talk about them. But you have to talk about them anyways. Like, Texans, they were a huge part of the story. We're going to get into them in the NFL honors next. But, I mean, to draft the defensive rookie of the year, in my opinion, and Will Anderson, to draft, the offensive rookie of the year quarterback in C.J. Stroud, his name slipped my mind. I had to look it up. And why would it? Because the guy's an absolute monster. And then D'Amico Ryans, like, they just absolutely changed their franchise around. And then Nick Caserio, who was my only pre-draft interview. My agent called me shitting his pants that Nick Caserio from the New England Patriots wanted to meet with me pre-draft.
Wow. That's cool.
And I'll never forget it. It's a good story. I don't even know if I told it, and I swore I would tell some stories today to make it worth their while for people showing up. So pre-draft, I was an undrafted tight end. We thought I was going to go undrafted, like rookie minicamp, like barely even get invited to show up. Not even like, hey, you're signing a contract, but like, hey, here's the contract, so if you get hurt, like, you can't sue us. One of those puppies. Not like any money.
Yeah.
So, like, the phone starts to ring. They're like, hey, where are you going to be on draft day? What's your number? Hey, where are you going to be on draft day? You know, what's your cell? And they do that because it's like a recruiting pitch in a way, because you're going to go undrafted. But they wanted to be like, well, Denver called, and Atlanta called, and Baltimore called, so we'll consider them. We'll consider a $1,000 signing bonus or no signing bonus, right? So that's the recruiting pitch. So out of nowhere, my agent calls me, like 4 missed calls. I'm working out at Temple. He's like, listen, Nick Caserio from the New England Patriots, who's one of the most intense general managers in the NFL, wants to meet with you tomorrow at Temple. I was like, holy shit, let's do it. He's like, don't tweet it, because guys would tweet like, hey, I'm meeting with so-and-so, or hey, I'm going to New England for a workout tomorrow. And Belichick would call the agent and say, we saw the tweet, he's not coming in. Now, again, this is sources. People probably crucify me online. I have no idea. These are from multiple people telling me this, so God bless. Long story short, we go into the meeting room. It's me and a couple other players, right? So I'm nervous because I would love to play for New England Patriots. Are you kidding me? I'm a tight end. Grew up in Philly. Like, I know all about Gronk. Like,
In that system,
Gronk's the best tight end of all time. Kittle's the second best of all time. I think Kelsey's the third in that order, and the guys that were before him, I'm sorry, but these guys are just way different in my opinion. So we get in the meeting room, and right when he gets in the meeting room, we're all sitting there. We're offensive guys. He put 2 plays on the board, so I'm hammering notes down. I'm the note guy. I gotta be dialed in. I'm the smart guy. I know the playbook. I grind. Like, I gotta be that guy. Perfect for New England, right? He puts 2 plays on the board, and he proceeds to grill the 2 guys I'm sitting with for off-the-field issues in their past life. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at play number 2 the entire time while he's grilling those guys. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take my swing. I'm going to focus, because plays were complex. And there's like 2 systems in the NFL. One's numbers, one's words. I'm not going to get into that. But I am grilled. And I mean, I am just so focused on play 2 while he's grilling these guys hard for different things they've been involved with off the field that I know about and I had stories about, and he was asking me if I knew anything about it. I'm saying I know nothing about them because I don't want to get those guys in trouble, right? And these are high players in the NFL still to this day, and they're good men. They've been very good to me and my family. So I'm studying too, and he sees me looking down at it, right? Of course. So I guarantee you, he saw me looking at 2 because I had he had a notebook that he gave us. And he made us flip the book over for 2. So I flipped it, and then he's like, flip it back over to 1. So then I sneakily flipped it over to 2 so I could study. What's he do? Hey, Colin, hop on the board and put play 1 on the board for me. I went up there, absolutely shit down my leg. I knew absolutely nothing, and I never heard from the New England Patriots again. So the moral of the story, kids, is study play 1.
Always.
Study play 1, always. But I took my shot.
It's like heads or tails, though. Could have gone either way.
Yep.
What are you betting on for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That's it.
I betted on tails that day, and it was a good time. But I was sweating. Oh my God, I was so nervous, but it was all good. And that's probably not even the reason why I went there. I probably just wasn't good enough for a match. And they're probably like,
nerves, all of it. It's got to be so intense.
It was.
So few people see that in
Yeah.
a single room.
Yeah, it was funny. It was just like a snowy day in North Philly. Like, I'll never forget it like yesterday. So I brought it up because he's the GM for the Texans, Nick Caserio. And I've been pounding the table for the guy because, A, that interaction we had, but I know he's really good. So Texans are a team to watch. A couple broadcasting notes I want to throw in there. Listen, the stardom, the rocket ship of Pat McAfee, I know it's NFL and he's a college football guy, but like he played in the NFL and he's now taken over the media world. The guy is an absolute monster. People love him when they're 80 and people love him when they're 18. The guy is on a different level. And I want to touch on base that because I think he's a part of the NFL story this year. And then an NFL storyline to watch now and upcoming is the Greg Olsen, Tom Brady situation. So Tom Brady, when he retired, signed a massive deal with Fox, monumental deal with Fox to be a broadcaster. Well, Greg Olsen stepped in as his replacement and has done great. And he's the highest reviewed guy in the business right now as a color guy, at least upcoming. So there's a little bit of a, not feud, but they're going to give the boot to Brady.
You kind of have to.
You have to.
I mean, with his reputation, with his story, with his history, with his accolades, you can't not.
No, you have to.
And I think one of the best things they did was have Romo in the booth because the insight that he provided as a top-tier quarterback for a long time in the NFL was invaluable. I mean, they almost had to stop him at points because he's calling plays before they're happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild to see that.
No doubt. And he's done a great job, and he's opened up windows for guys to talk more. You see Dan Orlovsky and all these guys. I think more fans and more people are getting into, what's the word, watching and learning the game more instead of watching highlights.
No, it's the inner workings, understanding what's going on.
Yeah, so that's been good. So I think we're going to skip to the next thing here, brother.
Yeah,
What do we
no
got?
doubt.
So I'll run through it. I'll give you thoughts. And we'll go through this quick here. Most valuable player, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, C-Mac, Dak, Purdy. I think it's Lamar Jackson. My pick before the season was Christian McCaffrey. He'll probably be number 2, and I have him winning Offensive Player of the Year. Personally, I think quarterbacks should have their own situation. There should be Quarterback of the Year, and then there should be MVP award voting because there's so many great players that are up for these awards. So I think it's Lamar, how dynamic he is, the things he does that make people look silly, and they're the best athletes on the planet, and he's the best athlete. He's the best athlete of the best athletes, and he continues to do it at a high level. I think Todd Monken was huge for him this year. They did some amazing things together, so I'm going to go Lamar Jackson.
I can't say I disagree. I mean, McCaffrey, it's astounding to watch him. He's just, you know exactly what to expect from him.
Yeah.
It's going to happen every single game, as they say. Remember the Titans? It's like Novocaine. Just keep doing it over and over and over and over. He's got it. But between somebody like Brock Purdy and Lamar, they're orchestrators of the whole game. They take it on their shoulders and they make those plays. I think Lamar saw more than Purdy.
Yeah.
As we saw towards the end of the season, unfortunately, the wheels fell off at the end of that game. High pressure moment like that, doesn't matter how tested and tried and true you are, it's going to get to you. But to see Lamar Jackson play the way he did this year was incredible.
He was incredible. He really was. All right, well, I gave him Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey. Who do you like, Dak, C-Mac, CeeDee Lamb, Lamar, or Tyreek Hill, who had a great year?
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill did some wild stuff. Broke the single-season touchdown record for the Dolphins this year. I was coincidentally at that game as they smoked the Jets. Same deal, though. You know, he's got it. And there was a connection that the two of them had that was one of the best in the league. It's so cool to see somebody with that kind of speed and that athleticism out there.
Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going Myles Garrett. The guy's different. He's a game changer. I think all these guys are great. T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons. T.J., you could say won it. You could say Micah won it. Max Crosby's so underrated. He's an absolute stud. If that team was better, he'd probably win it. And then Deron Bland, the DB for the Dallas Cowboys, who had a massive year. I'm going to go Myles.
I went Myles as well. I think even though his numbers weren't exactly what they were in 2022, I think that his on-field presence in leadership really stole the show. I mean, a young team fighting with a few different problems. You got Joe Flacco in there as this wild...
Jim Schwartz had a great year, defense coordinator as well for Browns.
He took a lot of that weight on his shoulders, and I think he really was a stepping stone for them to succeed.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, you have Gibbs, Detroit Lions running back. He was the top pick out of Alabama, transfer from Georgia Tech. He was there with Jeff Collins. Sam Laporta, that guy's an absolute stud with the Lions. He's a freak show. Really good player. Puka Nacua with the Rams, lit it up. Bijan Robinson, Atlanta. C.J. Stroud, Houston. Listen, I think the easy pick, C.J. Stroud, but I'll be real. You're going to go C.J.?
I'm going C.J.
Okay.
Simply for that single game, 457 yards, 5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not something rookies do. And
No.
it was total command of the game. But, yeah, I mean, I'd still have to go. I think C.J. Stroud's my pick.
I think it's Puka Nacua for several reasons, but I'll go for this reason. Sean McVay, for years, has talked about hanging him up. and retiring. Like, there's been rumors of that for quite some time. Aaron Donald, quite some time, retiring. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I mean, they're the future there. And if you're Matt Stafford, you're going to be smiling year to year. They drafted this guy in the mid rounds, and the guy's an absolute stud. Like, Puka has been monstrous.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's franchise saving, but like, damn, he's pretty damn close, because now they have another weapon that's for cheap when they have a lot of players that are expensive in Kupp and Donald and Stafford.
It's a whole other aspect of the game, really looking at that salary cap. And the same note, you can't really discount Laporta either. He
He's a
played.
huge year.
He was a huge driving force for the Lions' success this year.
No doubt. No doubt. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Anderson. Jalen Carter in Philly was awesome. Joey Porter Jr., Joey Porter Sr., I grew up and met Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day. Joey Porter Jr. is a Penn State guy. Had a great year with the Steelers. Kobe Turner, the Rams defensive tackle. They did great drafting him and Puka Nacua with limited draft capital. They traded a ton over some years. And then Devin Witherspoon with Seattle. So I'm going to go Will Anderson with the Texans. Jalen Carter, I think if the Eagles were better longer, I think he would get it. But he'll be the replacement for Fletcher Cox, who may or may not retire this year, and he'll continue to have a great career.
And Witherspoon was definitely a core for the Seahawks this year.
Yeah, great player.
Again, not on a team that didn't wow as much as a lot of people were kind of hoping for. But seeing those little flashes of excellence there was huge for him.
So it was funny. Alec Ingold, who I do the radio with, who's their fullback for the Dolphins, was like, Tua played great this year, and no one even thought about the injury stuff. Like, completely gone.
Overshadowed, I think, by the high level of play that we've been seeing all year from quarterbacks and from other comeback players. I mean, Flacco, just with his age and his veteran status, that's what made that so impressive to me. But you look at somebody like Tua after last year, I mean, almost potentially leaving the game forever.
Yeah.
And then to come back and connect with Tyreek Hill the way that he was doing that's
awesome.
Wild. Under Mike McDaniel, too, got a great success story of his own. That's really cool to see that all of them put together.
To me, it's Baker Mayfield. What Baker did, he got literally shipped out of a place. Like, there's the door, and we're gonna take some of your salary, and we're gonna kick you out the door. So the Browns and the Panthers paid his salary, and then the Panthers kicked him out and cut him. They didn't even trade him. They cut him to the Rams. He had that awesome Thursday night game where he only had 24 hours of studying and then run right down the field, and they won. And then the Rams didn't re-sign him because we got Matt Stafford. See ya, pal. I think he signed a 1 year, $6 million deal with the Bucs, which for the quarterback position is literally $0. Yeah. And now they may not be able to afford him. Like, he's going to get a Geno Smith contract, which is a boatload of money, and this is what these guys deserve. Don't focus on the money, folks. It's the percentage of the cap. The cap's way higher. It's not 1993 anymore. It's a much different game. Yeah. Everybody gets wound up about the money. It's a percentage of the cap, and it's just gone up. So I'm going to go Baker, but a lot of deserving people on that list. So Coach of the Year, we'll go quick here. Dan Campbell, John Harbaugh, D'Amico Ryans, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin Stefanski. For me, it's the coach that does the most with the least. Dan Campbell, loaded roster. John Harbaugh, loaded roster. Kyle Shanahan, loaded roster. Kevin Stefanski, really impressive year. Joe Flacco, the quarterbacks, P.J. Walker, my boy. They had so many different quarterbacks come through the system. But to me, it's D'Amico Ryans, what he did. These Niners coaches that come over, defensive coaches, offensive coaches, super impressive. So I'm going to go D'Amico with the Texans.
Being not as affiliated with it, I always look as who am I following into battle, and that's Dan Campbell. I think that his persona, his drive, his intensity, that to me is a coach that is going to bring that intensity to the game. That play calls aside, he's the guy that I want to be following into battle.
Yeah, he's a stud. I was with him 3 days in New Orleans for a rookie minicamp, and I walked out a better tight end after 3 years of coaching. And I've had some amazing coaches. He was just awesome. So, again, guys, special thanks to our sponsor, the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. They ship fudge and sweet treats across the country. So I'm just going to rip through this real quick to keep this thing moving so we can get to the actual Super Bowl talk. Appreciate everybody being here at Lost Boys. Check them out all over on all social media platforms. Coaches changes around the league. Last couple of years, it's been all offensive coaches getting these jobs. Because look at the playoffs this year. It's all offensive coaches other than really Harbaugh. But it's a lot of offensive-minded guys. This year, 5 of 8 of the coaches that got hired, head coaches, were defensive guys. So I think that's a really interesting stat. The Belichick and Vrabel thing, they were the only two I nailed. I went through and I guessed every coaching hire, and I was dead wrong on all of them. But everyone's like, they're taking this job, they're taking that job. These guys are football lifers and never have any time off, ever. and they're program builders that want the right opportunity. What people think in the NFL too is, from an outsider perspective, is all jobs are created equal. They are not. Every organization is not the same. They're completely different. How I was treated with the Giants, how I was treated with the Bears, Panthers, and Vikings, they're all completely different. They all have pros and cons, but they're all different. So, listen, a lot of these teams were on the hot seat last year, and all these jobs sound really appealing if you're a higher level head coach because of ownership. Ownership matters. Giants are on the hot seat. Eagles are on the hot seat. Cowboys are on the hot seat. What's McVay going to do with the Rams? Is he going to do it another year? He's talked about retirement. What are the Bears going to do? These are big name organizations. Not that others aren't successful, but these are ones that are like,
These are storied. These are.
They're woven into the history of the league. So like that matters that two people like that, who Vrabel played and then jumped right into coaching at Ohio State and then jumped right to the Titans head coaching job after he was the DC with the Texans. So to me, they pumped the brakes. They're taking a year off. They're going to enjoy some family time. They got plenty of dough. They'll be completely fine, I'm sure. So let's see. Something to keep an eye on here. You're starting to hear more about is Andy Reid and the Chiefs. I don't know much about it. I have no sources, no nothing, but
Only 10% of what you read in those papers, right?
yeah, but you're starting to just see a glimmer of it. You're just starting to see more people like, oh, keep an eye on what Andy Reid does this year. You're like, what? I mean, listen, he's been around a while. He had a really long tenure with the Eagles and a really long tenure with Kansas City. It's hard to step away when you have the Michael Jordan of quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I think, as we alluded to before, you've seen it a little bit. I mean, Mahomes is controlling games like he has been since day one, but I feel like the flair is not quite there like it was last year or 2 years ago. They struggled for a while in the middle of the season.
Yep.
They're missing passes. They were not on the same level. And I know that Andy Reid, I feel like, got some heat for some of the play calls, extra runs when they should have been passing or vice versa. Maybe he was reading the situation accurately. But at a certain point, you won X amount of times. When is it ready? When are you ready to say, okay, I'm going to go out on top? We did X, Y, and Z. 3 Super Bowls.
If they win. Yeah. And he was at Philly. He had so much success. The NFC Championship games. I know it's not a Super Bowl, but a ton of success there. I'm going to touch on the free agency here, and then we're going to get to the Super Bowl notes. Just some big names I wanted to just kind of jot in your head as we move forward that are free agents. Chris Jones, the best player for the Chiefs defense. He sat out last year and missed some time. He was in the booth for the first game. He was in the suite the first game of the season last year. Yeah. And this is how different this guy is. He came back and he had a career game the next year. Kirk Cousins, I played with him in Minnesota. There's no one like Kirk. The guy is fantastic to be around and a pro's pro. Where he's going to go, are they going to re-sign him? Are they going to go younger? I love that organization in Minnesota. Somebody to keep an eye on where Kirk Cousins. Brian Burns, I played with in Carolina. Panthers got a first or 2 firsts and a second-round pick, something like that in that mixture for him, and they turned it down and then end up not re-signing him. That's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Daniil Hunter, premier edge rusher. I'm not going to go through my whole list here, but just some big names. Saquon Barkley's a free agent. Mike Evans, who set 1,000 yards receiving in every single game, every single season since he's been a Buck. That's massive. There's some little names, though, that I think they're big, but people may not know about. Jeremy Chinn's a free agent, stud safety for the Panthers, never found the right fit. He's a great player. KJ Osborne, he was the second receiver for the Vikings. He's a really good player. Mike Gesicki, the former tight end, Penn State, Miami, really good player. Went to New England this year. They were a mess offensively.
It's got to get plugged into the right systems. A lot of those players.
They do.
As you alluded to the systems that you're in, whether it's defensive coach, offensive coach, you get those players in that right system, I blossom quick.
Yep, Curtis Samuel is another gadget guy that can play running back, receiver with Washington, a really good player. And then what's going to happen with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham with the Eagles, right? Like it's probably time, but are the Eagles going to sign him again? Are they going to try to chase a ring somewhere? They're 2 veterans that already have a ring. Patrick Queen, a really good player with the Ravens. You can't have Roquan and him. They'll probably move on. And then Levante David and Devin White, the 2 star middle linebackers for the Bucs, are, lights out players. So something to keep an eye on there. So I think it's time to get some Super Bowl stuff.
Let's do it.
Before we do any of it, I just want your initial thoughts on the Super Bowl, and then I'll rip it up, and then we'll answer some Q&A.
Well, we all know that the Chiefs are going to win because Taylor Swift's on their team. all jokes aside,
Taylor Swift
it is honestly, it's astonishing that this is such a talk about storyline from 2023 season. It is. It's a huge storyline. I think the number I saw the other day was something like $331 million has been generated for the NFL as a whole with her interaction and her fandom.
There's multiple people that I've talked to that their daughter watches the game with them now because she's
A 9% increase in viewership, and mostly in that demographic, which I think is great for the sport, though, because you get a lot of people that are like me or whatnot that aren't diehards. They don't know all the stats, they don't know all the players, whatnot. But you're introducing it to a younger group of people that have never really watched before. I mean, as you know, we all care about it. It's a terrific sport. It's wonderful to be able to enjoy that and enjoy the longevity of it. It's something you can get behind for a long time. It's definitely a double-edged sword, but Taylor Swift talk aside, it'll be interesting to see a rematch again, 49ers and Chiefs. And with the ups and downs the Chiefs have seen, I think it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's, again, anybody who says they know exactly what's going to happen in the Super Bowl is crazy. I've always been able to sit here and say, you know what, I predict this. And I've been around the game for a while, and I played the game. I usually have a really hard and fast opinion that this is going to happen, and maybe half of it happens, 3/4 of it does. I thought the Eagles last year were going to handle the Chiefs pretty well, and ended up being a really good game. And after that fumble, the game changed. But the Eagles looked like they were running away with it at times. It looked like they were playing in a different league, and then, right, and it's the same thing with this thing. Like, how can you count out Patrick Mahomes? Like, the minute you start convincing yourself, this is what we're doing, this is where I'm going, this is who I'm rooting for, this is who I'm getting behind. It's like, that's Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's not more accomplished than Tom Brady, but he's a better football player than Tom Brady. Like, the guy's different, the way he acts and functions and throws. And
I think a testament to it is seeing some of the angles he's making throws at, these side out weird, unconventional tosses that he's making to Pacheco, running a little slant route as a backup, or finding some open coverage way downfield.
the Kelsey stuff is ridiculous.
Diving catch to grab that first down. What was the end of the first half? Was so incredible. I mean, that was a key moment in that game, no doubt.
So for me, for something, people listening and hanging out here at Lost Boy Creations, Andy Reid versus Steve Wilkes, Kyle Shanahan versus Steve Spagnuolo. That's the game inside the game. Andy Reid, the head coach of the Chiefs, the offensive coordinator as well, the play caller. Steve Wilkes, former interim head coach of the Carolina Panthers, who I played for, who's the DC for the Niners. That is the chess match with two veteran coaches that have been around on that side of the football, and then flip it, Kyle Shanahan, legendary offensive head coach. Same with Andy Reid and what he's doing against Steve Spagnuolo, who's been doing it for so long in that Kansas City defense that has had a massive year. So after saying all that, to me, the team that's going to play great defense and run the football like it's 1990, the old school football, is going to win the game. The Chiefs have edited themselves and changed their game to run the football more. And listen, I'm a huge C-Mac fan. I'm a huge Kyle Juszczyk fan. He's the fullback for the Niners. I think George Kittle, other than Rob Gronkowski, is the greatest tight end of all time because he blocks like the best tight end of all time, and you also can line him up and he can run routes and is so explosive. Combine that with the play-action pass and how they do things with the Niners with Deebo Samuel. I don't know how the Chiefs have an answer to it. But the Chiefs' defense is great. They played well. They are physical. I mean, they made the Ravens do things that the Ravens don't do, and I think that's a testament to them. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. The front seven of the Niners: Chase Young, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargraves, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Drake Greenlaw. You get, obviously to make it 7, Oren Burks in there, but they're the real studs. I don't know if physically, financially, you can afford a better group. No. They're that good, but they haven't had a great year. So that's kind of the picture on their side of the football. And then on the Chiefs side, I love their O-line, and I love their running back at Pacheco. The kid out of Rutgers is a late-round pick. So good. Guy's so good and so fun to watch. If people don't know who he is, he's the guy who runs with his hair on fire, and he looks like a running back from the 80s.
Got to be one of the fastest running backs in the league.
And his knees, the way he drives.
Yeah, it's so fast and with power, too. Real power, driving through blocks.
Yeah. So I just gave a bunch of random stuff in there, and I was sitting here, I'm like, I'm not going to give you guys numbers and bore you out because that's not my world. I don't believe in it. I'm just telling you what my eyes see. I just think the Niners defense is going to step up and play well this game. I just do. This is their time to win it. They need to win it now. This is how they're built. I think C-Mac is going to get more touches in this game, maybe 30. I don't know if it's 20-something running, 8 catching, somewhere in that field where he's so focused upon by Kyle Shanahan, where everything runs through him, that they're going to get somebody to pop wide open because everyone's so focused on C-Mac. And they have so many weapons too, so you can't just double one guy. So I think C-Mac's, he's my MVP. I think the Niners win because of just everything I just said about that team. But again, and if you can physically and mentally just say that's going to happen, you're crazy, because they have Patrick Mahomes. So in a split second, everything I just said could come crashing down, and it doesn't even matter because Patrick and Kelsey just went off. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I like the Niners in a really close game, where I think they're going to have the ball last and they're going to score.
I follow with it. I think that's probably what I'm hoping for, and I think that it's legit. The things that I would really want to keep an eye on, I'd be curious to see how they play into the game. Just seeing how Pacheco runs for sure. And then Rashee Rice's impact. He was an awesome come from nowhere wide receiver that just found his way into Patrick Mahomes' favorite slot. He put up an awesome season. It was fun watching him as well. So there's definitely going to be both sides of the ball. Just like you said, San Francisco's defense right now is, if they show up, they're going to be unstoppable. And I think with McCaffrey behind the offensive side of that, it's going to be tough to beat.
It's a great game. It's a great matchup. It's fortunate again. I think the two teams that could have easily been in is Detroit and Baltimore, but it goes to show you, like, hey man, like these old school coaches, these guys that have been doing it a while, with these veterans that have been there, like, they found a way to get it done. There's no rhyme or wrong reason. All right, we'll switch to the gambling stuff here, and then we'll open a Q&A. I'm not a gambler myself, but I have some fun stuff that I took down.
Let me grab my notes here.
Have your notes. Copious notes on this.
No, it's been fun. As most people in here know, Florida just opened the whole.
Yeah, it's great.
It's new for us. It's fun. It keeps you. I bet $1 here and there on random prop bets and this and that.
Absolutely,
It keeps you
sure.
engaged. It's fun. There's
It's
some wild
huge.
stuff.
When it opened in Maryland, I'll never forget it. We were at the bar, and everyone was talking about it. And you know what? Today, everyone still talks about it. It doesn't dominate the conversation, but it's a part of it, and I think it aids to the fun. Throwing a few bucks on a game. So, all right. So to me, I'm taking C-Mac to be the MVP. I would take the over, whatever that is. I don't have the number down, but I take the over. I just think they're going to both light it up. I think these two coordinators are way too smart. I think it's
47-5.
47.5, yeah. So I think it was, I wrote down here, yeah, the over-under is 47.5. Last year the score alone was 38-35. I'll take Kadarius Toney for the MVP of the Super Bowl for your stray pick. I think everyone, they're going to take Purdy and, C-Mac, and you could take Kittle or Ayuk and all them and get those guys involved, and Kelsey and all that. But to me, if you want like a long shot, plus 50,000, $1 to win $500. So to me, I like that bet. If you're a betting person, I think that's a fun one. And if he makes a catch or two, or catches a jet sweep, or he returns a punt, all of a sudden he's right in the mix, and he has that ability to do it. So I'll take there. QB or the field for MVP. I think that was a fun one. I'm going to take the field. Kelsey, C-Mac, Kittle, Ayuk, like those guys alone. Pacheco, again,
They're going to be the playmakers that make
quarterback
the
or the field.
Yeah.
I think people are dying to get it in someone else's hands. It's all quarterback driven, but as you know, those two are so dominant.
You're also putting the field up against at least one potential MVP candidate for the year.
Yep.
So there is that aspect of it
No
too.
doubt. It's a great point. C-Mac to score the first touchdown, I think any of the first running backs to score the first touchdown, I would take that. Someone's going to score in the first drive. Now, I'll be dead wrong, right? They're going to go 3 and out in the first drive and be like, look at this asshole Colin. We just came and watched the show, and you just watched the show on live, and he was completely wrong. But I just think these guys have 2 weeks to play in the first 15 plays. They're going to be dialed in with it.
We have 49ers touchdown on the first drive.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to the coin toss. I think it's going to come down to who wins the coin toss. It's going to be the first team and first touchdown score.
I saw another one that I thought was funny. On a serious note, I would take the under on Mahomes and Purdy passing yards.
Yeah, the same thing.
I mean, they light it up.
260. Yeah.
Yep, they light it up. They both, one was 240, one was 260. Doesn't mean they're not great quarterbacks, but I think their run games are so good, and I don't think they're going to play keep away.
Yep.
I really think they're going to try to play keep away in time of possession and that kind of old school game. This is what it feels like for me. I think it would have been the same if Detroit got in. I would assume it'd be the same if the Ravens got in. they're all four of those teams are kind of built the same, like a pain in the ass to play against, and that's not always the case. Longest field goal, 54.5 yards.
I'm staying under.
I'm taking the under.
Yeah.
Teams are way more aggressive now in fourth down. Way more aggressive. The analytics have gotten into the game, and coaches don't care. And honestly, field goals don't win you football games. Touchdowns do.
Yeah.
Touchdowns do. That's why you saw what Dan Campbell did in a lot of scenarios going for it, because touchdowns matter. I know that's an obvious thing, but
a lot.
Oh, it's got to be way up. I don't know the number. Opening kickoff to be a touchback, I think that's an easy one. The kicker's going to be juiced up out of his mind, that guy, whoever it's going to be, because he's going to be able to do the opening kickoff to the Super Bowl with all those lights flashing. So he's either going to fumble it,
Nah, it's going to be a touchdown.
or he's going to boom it through the uprights. It's on grass. It's not the same type of grass, but the same situation as last year. Arizona, they grow the grass outside, and it's on tracks, and then it gets wheeled into the stadium, which is really cool because indoors is great and grass is great. Turf sucks. Vegas is doing the same thing. So that's a really cool little tidbit on how they operate, where they wheel it in and wheel it out. It's really spectacular. And again, the effect on turf on your body as a player is a nightmare. So
We saw a lot again this year. A lot of people getting injured from turf. It's tough. Yeah.
it is true, man. It hurts. And we practiced on grass in Carolina and played on turf, and we didn't care if the guys would slip or whatever, just because just how much it pounded your knees. All right. I saw time of possession on the first drive, 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Again, these coaches have had the script for a long time. I'm taking the over on that one. Purple and yellow Gatorade are the favorites. I'm going to hammer no Gatorade bath.
I think it depends on the team. If the 49ers win, there's going to be a Gatorade bath. If it's the Chiefs that win, I don't think there will be.
Well, Andy moves a little bit slower than Kyle Shanahan.
Lost a little pep in his step.
I mean, Andy's. Have you ever seen the punt, pass, and kick?
Oh, it's the greatest video.
He's the
of all
greatest
time.
athlete to ever walk the earth. It's no disrespect to Andy, but he's a lot older.
Yeah.
You know,
That's one of the coolest videos ever.
it's great.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, go try to find it on YouTube. Yeah.
So some fun notes I put down. I talked about the playing service. Jim Nantz calling his 9th Super Bowl. The guy's a legend.
Wow, yeah.
He's not calling March Madness anymore, I believe. So that's a little note. He had a really cool, just talking about like calling the game when you know 150 million people are listening to what you have to say, not just the 5 that are watching us today, and the beautiful 150 people that are here to watch us today. So, and I think the other thing too was what's going to happen more? Kelsey catches or shots of Taylor Swift watching the game?
That's if she gets there.
We'll say she's there.
There's probably a prop bet on that. If she
Oh, there
makes it
is
to
a
the
bet.
Super Bowl, I'm sure.
It's definitely going to be Taylor Swift, even though Kelsey's going to have an absolute monster game. Another thing on the matchup there, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw on Kelsey. Literally, the Ravens last week did not have 2 weeks ago, couldn't have matched up better against Kelsey with Hamilton at safety, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, and Kelsey had a ridiculous day. The Niners have the same ingredients to stop him. I don't know what's going to happen there. I think he's going to have another ridiculous day.
I think it's just going to come down to exactly what we've talked about. People just having it in their brain, in their mindset. This is the day. They're going to show up. They're going to make it happen.
I love it. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate it. We're going to open up. Thanks for listening to us for an hour. Of course, I'm thinking we're going to be 30 minutes, but, you know, I can talk more than anybody. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in here.
Still concerned that the Ravens are a running team. They led the NFL in rushing all year, yet the running backs only get 6 attempts in a game against the Chiefs. How do you explain that?
Is that a question or a comment?
It's disappointing.
How do you explain it, Tom? I don't know. Todd Monken this year had a massive year. Coach of the year. I mean, I think I may have got cropped out on my notes, but for the assistant coach of the year, Todd Monken is a winner for me. That offense at times literally looked like an all-star team out there. And they're running the ball, motions and shifts, and all their little pick and rub routes they were using. So I have no idea, Tom. No idea. Was it Harbaugh? At the end of the day, like if things are going awry, he's got to step in and make the call. So it always starts, the buck stops with the head coach, the general manager, and they really fumbled, in my opinion, an opportunity to take down the Chiefs. And in a year now, they're going to be able to load up again next year. Great question, Tom. Thanks for participating. That's it. Any questions? Anything on live?
I'll give you one. I've got.
Okay, go.
Well, we look for some live questions. there's been a lot of controversy about the tush push. And do you think that is the game evolving, or do you think that is a manipulation of the way the game should be played? Because it's been a huge factor in success and failure on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the Eagles have had a ton of success with it, and a lot of teams have not been good with it at all.
Yeah.
If you watch the Eagles, now they didn't hit it in the time that mattered the most in the playoffs.
Of course.
But over the entire season, they were dominant's an understatement. I mean, it was never stopped, not even close, not even remotely close. It was like almost a joke. They were starting 1st and 7 instead of 1st and 10. So I think it would get banned if more teams had success with it. But the Eagles, to me, were the only team that had success. So it won't go away.
Towards the end of the season, I saw a little bit out of Josh Allen.
Yeah,
just
they're
being
going
such
left.
a big guy.
Yeah, they were going left. To me, it's all about the O-lineman. Because, like, they have to get off and jump the count the right way. Kelsey's shorter. He's not that big of a guy, Kelsey. Maybe 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
So he can really get up underneath and lift it. And then Leonard Dickinson is the biggest Bama boy of all time, playing left guard. And Joey Montalata is 6'8", 380 as a rugby player. So, like, Jalen just goes left. And, of course, Jalen's a 700-pound squatter. So they have the perfect recipe. They never go right. They always go left.
You said that if you saw success, you think that they would ban it. Do you think that would actually happen as far as an implication of what it does to the game?
I think
Changes that.
I guess
that
to answer your
4th and 1?
first question, if more people had success with it, it'd be gone.
Yeah.
But only one team is, so it's like, okay, well, you got to figure out how to stop it because everyone else is getting stopped.
Yeah.
So, yeah, progression of the game. Yeah, I think it's a progression of the game. And them saying, hey, listen, here's what we have for our players. You know, let's find a way to make it happen. We got anything, G? Dave's got something. Sid's got something.
Question, trick plays. Andy Reid is known for employing trick plays.
He is.
Do you see Andy and/or Shanahan doing the same?
That's a great question. For those that couldn't hear, my dad asked about trick plays, and Andy Reid, is he going to run them, and then is Kyle Shanahan going to run some too? Yeah, it's a great question. I think they both will. And, you know, a little side note, Doug Peterson's an Andy Reid guy, and he ran the Philly special in a huge moment on 4th down in the Super Bowl.
All right, so hang on. So the next question is, will they run the Philly special?
Yeah, I don't think they'll run the Philly special. They could run a version of it. Andy Reid will run something that will be hysterical, some motion, some shift. Last year they did some crazy break out of the huddle. They have 2 weeks to prep.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's right.
Remember that? They did the whole roundabout thing, merry-go-round, carousel thing. So I think they'll do something. I don't know what it will be, but they'll do something entertaining.
There's always something. I
They
feel like
both will.
this is the game. Somebody breaks out something so out there bizarre. No one's expecting it.
They've been holding it. And
yeah.
the C-Mac can throw. So Debo Samuel can throw. So they have the weapons to do it. I'm sure somebody on the Chiefs can throw too. Kelsey can throw. Christ, he played college quarterback at Cincinnati. So you could see double passes, a great question. You could see things like that where they're getting those guys involved and they have some time to think about it. So I could see trick questions. What do we got? Sid's question. Then we'll go to the questions on live.
Where's your favorite place to watch the Super Bowl?
Huh. Shots and giggles. Key West, Florida. The best place to watch the Super Bowl in Key West. We go between there and Scars and Tats, and we've been doing the Key West Cup every year, so it's a good group. You have a question?
Yeah, how do the 49ers contain Kelsey? Because I heard you guys talk about Kelsey and Pacheco, and I think Pacheco will be locked up, in my opinion. How do they contain Kelsey?
You know, I don't think you're going to contain him. You just don't want him to hurt you. You know, it's like a good three-point shooter. Like you're facing Steph Curry, you're like, he's going to get his points. Like, don't be upset. Just like, don't let it happen so many times and let him be explosive. I think the one thing is like, what's the explosive play going to look like? Is Kelsey going to get it, getting tackled for 15 yards? Okay, great. Or is he going to get it, slip the tackle, and go for 60? Because they both can do that, him and Kittle. Like I said, I think we're looking at the two greatest tight ends in the world ever to play, other than Rob Gronkowski.
Yards after the catch and yards after contact are going to be huge for both
Huge.
of those guys.
They're both, I mean, they're two different guys. Kittle is strong as a bull, super, like, twitchy and, like, nutty. That's the best way to describe it. Shout out to Lance. And just, like, a nut job. And then Kelsey's, like, Gumby. Just, like, whoop, like, I'm just going to go over here and turn around and, like, just fall off three guys. And so, great question. Look, I don't know. Anything else?
What do you think the spread's going to be at the final score?
Oh, God. That's a good one, Dave. Prediction?
Prediction.
I'll go 30-27. Niners.
Good. I was getting close to that. Probably 35-27, something like that.
Okay, shootout.
And with Niners, yeah, I think, yeah, one-score game, high scoring, big first half, slower second half. That'd be another bet. I'd be curious to see what the over-under is for the first half, because if it's a dead split, I'd take the first half going over all day. Just the way these teams have been scoring and then holding off and playing the keep-away game in the second half.
Yeah, I'll say this in closing too. If you like to bet, I think, you know, people like to bet, and you're really adamant about a team, and you think, you know, if you have a thought like, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to win it in the fourth quarter, but I think the Niners are going to play well throughout the game, then take the Niners in the first quarter and the first half. Like, you don't have to take the whole game.
No. They've got so many different
Yeah.
options and whatnot. It's almost overwhelming if you don't know what you're looking at. You know, but you find some gems in there. It's fun. It keeps it interesting. Be
All right.
responsible, my friends.
You can go to the Lost Boy gambling app for help.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Someday,
Oh,
someday,
no.
we'll have a book out here before you know it. TK will be here every day. Sorry, TK, I love you. All right, continue.
Who's your favorite NFL TV announcer currently?
Oh, man. Go ahead.
I think Romo, like I touched on before, the insight he's got is almost too good sometimes. It's really wild to listen to his play calling before the play even transpires. He's calling who's going to make contact, how many yards after the catch, you know, where every single defenseman is going to be lining up. It's pretty. For somebody who doesn't know a lot about the game, it's great to listen to understand more about it.
Yeah, I think this was an off-the-wall one, but my current favorite is Kirk Herbstreit. He does the Thursday night games. I think his knowledge of the college game and his knowledge of the overall game, talking about where the guys went to college, how they developed, issues they had in school, where they're at now. Like, you want to talk about a guy who's got the most information in the world talking football, it's that guy. Because he knows so much about the college game, and then he goes over it. I think he does a great job talking about the NFL game, but people just think of his voice and think college, and they just can't get that out of their head. But I think he puts, I know he puts a ton of work in. I know other guys get lucky and don't put a ton of work in, so I know a little bit from behind the curtain. So I'm a big Kirk Herbstreit fan.
True to form announcers, I would have to throw Kevin Harlan in there.
Oh, well.
Kevin Harlan is my friends, my college buddies of mine. If he was on the game, it didn't matter whether it was NBA, NFL, NCAA basketball. He's the guy. That's a good one.
Is that it, G? All right, that's it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Matt Atkinson and Lost Boys, thanks for having us. Colin Thompson Show.